Crystal.
Good
Hello.
evening and welcome everyone to this Thursday's podcast. I'm Crystal Francis here coming in from Michigan. And tonight we have a guest that we can't wait to introduce, but let my other co host introduce herself as well.
Hello, guys. My name is Paula Armstrong. I'm from the DMV. I have Morgan, Jeremy, and I'm married and the mother of two. Of course, I just said Jeremy and Morgan. And of course, Morgan has a disability. I'm sure you guys have heard about her. Call her Morgan Pop. So we're excited about tonight's show. Go ahead, Crystal.
Yes, and so tonight we have Mike and Jessica Powell, and they're going to share some wonderful things tonight about their company. And Mike, we would like for you to introduce your family that you have with us tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Powell. I guess you could say senior, though I didn't change my name yet. This is my beautiful wife, Jessica.
Hello.
This is MJ here, Michael Jr., or Michael the second, and this is Jaleesa. Is your name Jaleesa? What's your name? Say Jaleesa. Okay, she's shy. But yeah, he can. You see it all over his face. But yep, this is my family here.
Hello.
Beautiful family.
Hello.
Beautiful family. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
It is. It's nice to have you guys. And before, you might have to step away. Jessica, is there anything that you would like to share tonight?
Not that I can think of right now.
Not right now. Okay.
Right now,
I think the kids been kind of wearing her out.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm with you, honey. I'm with you. I'm gonna send mine.
We
up there.
understand. Yes, we understand. But we thank you guys for even letting them show up, MJ and Jaleesa, just showing up and letting us see your beautiful faces. So, Mike, you're here tonight. You and Jessica, can you tell us about your company and how you got there? What inspired you?
So our company is named Adapt, and what it's spelled AUDAPT. So what it stands for is Autism Adapting. Of course, we started this with because we do our son MJ here. He is autistic, and the meaning behind adapt is just like pretty much helping the world adjust to autism, to like just have a broader understanding of what's going on. So it's his bedtime. Let me just go ahead and get him to the side, and then I'm gonna go ahead and. All right.
I
MJ,
understand that.
Have a good night, MJ.
Yes. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for
Jaleesa.
joining. We love meeting
Yes.
you guys.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put my headphones in real quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for having us again.
Yes,
No
of
problem.
course.
No problem. We're not trying to disrupt anybody's bedtime because when it's my bedtime, I don't want anybody disrupting mine.
I know that's right.
He lasted about twice as long as what I thought he'd last sitting right here. He started
Okay,
He
chilling.
did great.
But
okay.
yeah, so MJ, when he got diagnosed with autism when he was 4. Prior to that, we just thought it was speech delay, and I could kind of like lead into how we got to adapt. So when he was, 1 going into, he was starting to say some words, but he wasn't talking yet, and everyone, or people we talked to would just say, let's go come down the line or put him around other kids and he'll start talking. So they had just opened a daycare across from where I work at. So we said, okay, we'll put him in daycare. And then also in the city that we live in, they had speech therapy that'll come onto your house twice a week and work with your child up until the age of 3. So we put him in daycare. And it was kind of like a progressive daycare to where it was like toddler 1, toddler 2, toddler 3, all the way up until like pre-K. And we did start noticing that he wasn't like graduating in between the toddler classes, but we didn't worry about it too much. But after he was there, after like a year or so, and he was held back, we started noticing little behaviors, but never did I even think about autism. Never did it cross my mind. It was just he's a little bit different, and he has a speech delay. So one of the head people there and said to us he might have autism. And the first thing you go do is be defensive. It's I don't even know what you're talking about. So COVID hit. We pulled him out of there. we kept doing the speech therapy in home. And then once he turned 3, um, these was like some emotional times. He graduated out of like the in-home speech therapy, and he had to go and he qualified for, they use the term special education. Now, you know, when I heard that term, I'm just like, well, I just thought it was speech delay. I don't, special ed, I really don't get how we going that far. So for him to still qualify for speech therapy, he had to like go to a center and like kind of start a pre-K under special education. So we visited the facility, and some stuff starts sinking in, but I'm still looking around like, I don't think it's this serious yet. Let me just you know, we'll just figure out another way to get speech therapy, but we don't want to like you label them, you know, and that's what I think a lot of parents look at is like labels with autism, special education, and so forth. So like, I don't want to label my son this early with special education. He only 3. I think it's too early to make that determination. So we had to unenroll from the services that was being provided. And when he was going into 4, that's when we just took him to get evaluated. And that's when he was diagnosed up in Ann Arbor at U of M hospital with autism. So it was like a 2 or 3 hour evaluation, and they said he was autistic. You know, gave us some information and some pamphlets and so forth, and then that was it. So even at that point, we still don't know what's going on. You know, like this is just all new to us. We know that he's not talking, but saying that he's autistic, we still didn't really get a grip of like what was happening. But they did recommend that we start getting other services like, I mean, of course, speech therapy, ABA therapy, which is like behavioral therapy, and OT, and also physical therapy. So being that he had the diagnosis, we was able to work with our insurance and start calling around to centers to get him enrolled in therapy. And, you know, at this time, so this is about 2021, you can get into speech relatively quick, but ABA, it was like a 6-month waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
So we started out taking them to speech. It was like 30 minutes away from the house. We started out at one center called Bluestone. It was in Livonia. And we was taking them out there just for speech twice a week. And we was on a waiting list for ABA. And then another facility, I would say 30 minutes in the opposite direction, they was able to get him in with all the services that he needed.
Mm.
So he's 4, and it's right around the start of school. You know, we decided to not do pre-K, and we just go put him in therapy just to kind of see how that go. So we put him in there, and when I say the insurance, they didn't cover it. You know, the copay was the out of pocket was up there, but I mean, they definitely helped out with the services, but it wasn't like 100% paid for. So he did that for a year and a half, and we did see a lot of improvements with some of his behaviors, with his way of communicating. You know, they introduced us to the like the talker tablet, which the other facility was more doing sign language, but they was able to get us like the speaker iPad with the tablet on there so he could start talking, because MJ, though he was nonverbal, he taught himself how to write his ABCs at 3.
Wow.
That is awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Like on his own. I don't even want to like take credit and just lie like that. No, he studied stuff. Like he'd take stuff, and he had a bed that sit higher up, and he would just go under his bed and just study it and come back. Like he in astronomy, so he know like all the planets in order from the sun in exact order.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he go study stuff and he get it, and then he just got it, and then it's just, you know, don't ask him a question too many times, because he like, you should be getting this quick as he
Right.
So,
Look, they be like, they are so intelligent, and then they be looking at us like, what's wrong with y'all?
Man, his brain just, it worked so fast, and he solved stuff like so fast. And so he like going into, so it wasn't a hard transition to go from for them to go to the talker tablet, because he was he was writing out words, like he knew how to write his name. So once he went to the tablet, it was real easy for him to like spell out sentences like what he want and so forth. So he did Yeah, he stayed there. It was in Novi, Michigan, and they were real good. He stayed there probably about a year and a half. So once he turned 6, which would be like halfway through when you start kindergarten, we had to redo the IEP for him because when we didn't decide to go forward with the special, special education at 3, they canceled this IEP.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
Mm.
for us to redo the IEP, we had to like requalify him from services.
Yeah.
I it they
A fast within itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
we did it. I mean, they kept kind of like, well, I ain't gonna go there, but yeah,
Now,
so we just yeah.
was the preschool like half a day? Was it like a half a day, or do they? Because I know within Maryland, Morgan was a guarantee because she had special needs. She was there all day.
It was all day.
Okay.
And also it was somewhat up to you with how you want to do it.
Yeah.
So it was, and that was another thing too with being he was, he's our first child. So
Yeah.
um just that transition of putting your kid into like preschool or daycare or anything is just, it was emotional. But they offered it either half a day or full day, however you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have came, picked them up, took them there, everything.
Well,
But
let's go back. I do want to go back, Mike. I do want to go back to that diagnosis. I want to go back and I want you to tell me. And first of all, I want to commend you because
Yes.
most times we have the women on here telling the stories and they have the details and the dates and how long it took. And so I want to commend you because, it's rare that you find a man that's this knowledgeable about the process. But let me go back and say, guys, I'm not saying there are no guys that can do this,
Yes.
but it's just rare because most of the time when you hear this, the man turns to the wife and say, when did that happen? Oh, when did this happen? So I just want to commend you that I can already tell that you are a definite part of the whole process, which is an
Yeah.
awesome thing. And I'm sure your wife is happy too that you guys seem to be a team with this. But I want to hear about that initial diagnosis. When you got that, you and your wife, how did you come together? What was that conversation like on the way home or when you got home? I know you said you wasn't fully accepting it or fully understand it, but tell us what that conversation was like.
Oh, yes.
man, this like Ayana fixed my life. I gotta hold a couple tears back. So I would say like before that. So that day, I go like the evaluation. I think we was a little bit confused at first because like some of the like how with these evaluations, every
Mhm,
kid or child is different.
mhm,
Right.
So if you start going through like procedures on how to connect certain dots, everybody go do it different. So like when
mhm,
they was going through certain stuff, he would ace it. Some stuff he wouldn't. They was like measuring his head and saying, oh yeah, this is typical. Like I don't. I mean, I got a big head too. I mean, that kind of like I got teased about it growing up. So I didn't. So going through the whole procedure, I didn't
mhm.
see it coming that he was gonna get diagnosed with it.
Okay.
I'm thinking that okay, he's doing pretty good. He's some stuff. I mean, he's only 4, but when they actually did it, you know what? Let me just rewind back a little bit. MJ was premature, so he was
Okay.
born. My wife water broke at 28 weeks. So the
Mhm,
emotional roller coaster with this is start like so her water broke at 28 weeks, and then he was born, and she had to stay in the hospital until he was born at 34 weeks. So he was a preemie. He was only about 4 pound 9 ounces when he was born. He was little, not
mhm,
even like fully formed. So
Mm-hmm.
just like spending Christmas and all of that in the hospital and just going through that, it was just like man. And then him standing in the NICU for 10 days and the Jondrus light. I'm probably not saying it right. And just hold your baby that's just
Mm-hmm.
so small. You just
mhm,
that's an emotional thing. And then he growing up and you seeing stuff, and then to hit the point of the diagnosis, it's just like all of that's just kind of just like, man, the car home was quiet. The ride home was definitely quiet, but it's just like, man, this is a lot to take in because it's been quite the journey so far. With him being born premature and her having to stay in the hospital for those 6 weeks. So we was already kind of going through emotional stuff, but when the diagnosis came in, um, it was shocking. I mean, we didn't like think, oh, we should go get a second opinion or nothing like that. We just kind of was just like, all right, we got it at an early age. Let's just see what services we can get to kind of just start helping them out. I think that's what it
Mhm.
was. It wasn't like a
Okay.
big, I would say like deflate or nothing like that. Our tolerance was kind of like built up just because, you know, going through the, premature birth and all that. It was just a lot that you was
Yes.
already kind of going through. So now it's okay, he autistic, and I could talk a lot,
Oh,
you
you
guys,
doing
my
good,
wife,
Mike.
Yeah,
so
Yes.
that's,
yeah,
we
I
already
mean,
getting a comment from another
yeah.
father, and I told him he reminds me of you. I'm gonna put that comment up there, but I want you to go through your thought.
No, no,
Yes.
thank you. Because it with autism, all right. So like if you're, and this is no disrespect to any other, special needs or illness. Like when I was growing up, I was used to seeing, like you see somebody with Down syndrome, or when somebody has sometimes a disability, you would see it. Like if somebody was blind, they might have, they might walk with a stick, or if they were deaf,
Hmm.
sometimes you might see hearing aids. But
Mm-hmm.
the different thing with autism that I think what might keep people in shock is that you don't sometimes see physical features with it.
That's right.
And so when I'm looking at my son, he looked just like me. I know the term normal is cliche, but I don't really, it was kind of hard to really, and we might have just been in a state of shock at the time, but it was hard to fully grasp like what is autism? Like,
Yeah.
okay, he's not talking, but if it was something like he was not talking because he was deaf, that's one thing, or something else. It wasn't really a correlation of, we didn't really understand what autism was. We looking
Yes.
at our son, we just like, are y'all just putting him under this umbrella because he's not talking? Or, what is this? And
Yeah,
then when we
quickly labeling them almost like, yeah, just
Yes.
like a catch-all label.
that was our first, it wasn't
Mhm.
like we weren't fierce with it, but that was our first thing. Like we don't, and okay, and I'll say another thing too. Prior to that, we heard about them kind of like putting you on certain levels of the spectrum. When they did it with MJ, they got rid of like the levels of it, and it
Hmm.
seemed like they was just putting everybody under the umbrella.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't like they don't know what they're talking about, but it's just like, I don't even understand what this is. And then as time start going, as we start getting them the services and understanding that it was like a neurology, my tongue twist. It was
Hmm.
something with the brain.
Neurologically.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
when you start. Okay, I understand now. But
Yeah.
it's the only thing that we could correlate at the time is that he's not talking.
Mhm.
And then there was some sensory things, but we didn't get it. Like we were on vacation and somebody went past in a loud motorcycle, and he covered his ears, but it took him a long time to calm down. But those hog bites is loud to anybody. Of course, it's gonna scare a
Mhm.
baby. You take him to a basketball game, and this before he's 2, and the buzzer go off. Okay, he don't like it, but the buzzer stopped like 5 minutes ago, but it's taking a long time. So we we didn't know that was
You didn't
a
know.
correlation with
Absolutely.
autism. We just, he's not talking, he don't like loud noises. So when they gave us the diagnosis, we kind of just like, all right, so what can we do, to help him talk? Because I don't really understand the rest of this stuff. And then when we start getting the services and we start educating ourselves as much as we can on autism, that's when it start kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, this is what we're dealing with. But after the diagnosis, we was still like somewhere in la la land, or not really understanding what's going on, because
Absolutely.
forgive me for sounding ignorant, but I'm used to seeing disability and almost correlating it with physical features.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, and
I think, yeah.
wow. I think we all can identify with that because
Yes.
my daughter wears
Yes.
her disability. However, it was just, I don't know. I'm like you. My whole thing, one thing that when me and my ex-husband went to see the doctors, they were telling me all this stuff. And I'm a fixer. So at the end, I was like, and that's when she was a baby, 2 weeks old. And they were like, so do you have any questions? I said, how do we fix this? And they were like, now my daughter has a genetic disorder. So, of course, one of the more common ones is Down syndrome. So I'm like, like you, I was kind of like at a round table with all of these doctors,
Hmm.
and I didn't understand what that was because they tested me for Down syndrome. She didn't have Down syndrome, but yet and still she wore her disability. So it was certain things that, it was just like even today she's going on 20 and I'm still learning things about her. So I get you. I can only imagine for those that don't wear their disability. Some people used to tell me, Paul, it's better that she wears her disability because when she goes out in public, if she acts out, at least they have sympathy for her. But if your child looks somewhat normal, they want you to beat them to death, or say
Right.
you're not a
Right.
parent that know how to, yeah.
Like your
So I
kids having a tantrum or something.
You know,
And I mean,
you can't do that nowadays no
you
more.
sure could.
no.
And you can't do that. That is definitely to me not a remedy for a child with autism at all. To me, that escalates it. And so, sometimes I see comments on social media like that could have been handled. That wouldn't have been my kid. And I'm thinking, you don't know what you would have done if it's your kid. But Mike, I was just like in everything you're saying, I feel like when I talk to people almost verbatim, that is the story we hear.
Mhm.
The not knowing, doctors coming to us, what's this new word? Because if you're not in the know of disabilities, what is autism? So
Mhm.
what does that even if they ask me questions, I remember the doctor asked me, the pediatrician, does my son flap his hands? I was like, no. Okay, she didn't demonstrate how it should look, and then later on I look back at a
Mhm.
video and I see my son flapping his hands. And then
Mhm.
sounds, like when you're saying those different sounds, I look back at videos when he was like 2 or 3 and we're singing happy birthday. And then we get to
Mhm.
like, yay. And he's like all like this.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and like, we're not known. We're just thinking, oh, we were too loud, like,
Mhm.
but we're all like, yay, and clapping. And he's like covering his ears. And, and it can lead to meltdowns, and it's hard to recover for some kids to get that body calmed down and feeling safe again because something, there's sensory overload. And so I can imagine how this was hitting your family all at once, especially on the first child. And all and you was leading up to like when you opted out of preschool and chose therapy, which and that's I don't think any decision is not correct, because a lot of families choose the ABA therapy. Some do half and half, some do preschool. It's what best needs for the child and that family and what they're trying to get out. So how did that go? Because you said that was like a whole different frustrating process of when it was time for him to go to kindergarten. Am I correct?
Yeah, I might have missed one piece of that, and I could like kind of go back to like what was going through my
Okay.
mind also with that decision. The feedback that of course, when you go visit the facility, it's not like the used car lot, like sign right now. Like
Right.
it's go home, think about it, and see what you want to do. So, when you start saying the term special education, the feedback that I was getting is that it's gonna be hard to get him out of that. If you put him in there, he gonna have to stay in there all the way to 12th grade. And so that's the
Mm.
feedback I'm getting. And I don't know. So that was like a major
That's
part of me
scary.
saying no, because
Mhm.
to be honest, he could have went to that preschool and got ABA and OT and speech, just like the other kids there. We were just in a state of denial, and we got some misinformation from people
Mm,
that cared about us. They weren't doing it to be intentional, but it was just people people share only what they know. And the feedback that
Right.
we got is that if you put him in special education, he ain't gonna get out. Like if you in school and you thinking like, man, if you get bad grades, it's you got to get held back. I mean, you start correlating it, to your school experience and things like that. So if you
Mm-hmm.
thinking that, okay, if my kid is in special ed and they got special ed and then they got these standardized tests,
Mm-hmm.
he'd never be able to. What if he get past this situation
Mm-hmm.
and now y'all gonna hold him back with these standardized tests? So like that
Right.
was like one of the biggest factors that I don't want to start him behind. Just that was our mind frame at that time without being properly educated on the school systems and talking to some people that might have been more well versed with how this thing the IEP and stuff go. We just weren't well versed with it. We was
Mm-hmm.
just like we could just send them to daycare or not daycare, but we could send them into therapy. It's We weren't really sold on trying to make them talk, but we just like maybe we could get them some help and then we could just put them in kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
just regular general ed kindergarten, and that's what that was kind of like the determining factor not to put him in special education at 3.
Okay. And so where is he now?
He's so this one might probably be better. He just finished first grade, so he'll be going to second grade. So he's in school. So the school system that he's in nowadays it's still special education, but it's he's in a classroom where it's only about 8 kids in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom. There's a teacher and 3 aides, and then they rotate them in general ed also. So he spent like
Good.
half of the day in like it's they kind of call it like an autism classroom that's a little bit more controlled, and they got a curriculum, and then other activities, whether it be like art, gym, or some of the other subjects, he'll still go out and like participate with everybody else.
Which is awesome. It's a great opportunity for his peers at his school to get to know students like him. And it's
Mm-hmm.
also other your peers are models for you.
That's
So
right. You
it'll
need
make him want to do what they're doing,
that. Mm-hmm.
and want to be included. And I think it's a very great is a great environment to have inclusion to just make them all students should feel welcome, because I think some of the things that we share at my school community is that special education is just additional support
Mm-hmm.
for students that need it, but all students are general education students. They fall under general education. And so I think that if that's how school districts look at it and school communities, that's very helpful for the families, the students. So I think that's wonderful. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. And Mike, you should know, not all districts and not all schools do that.
No, yeah, I definitely, I heard stories. I even, man, I ain't gonna say 100% where it came from, but I heard of one district that wasn't even, 100% prepared. And so, with like what you said, it was the same stuff. Um, I didn't know this stuff, and then I look back at the videos, and he sometimes might jump and flap his hands, and sometimes he might walk on his tippy toes, and
Mhm.
I wasn't noticing that stuff until I went back and looked at it. But sometimes it's different stemming with autism. Like when my son,
Yes.
he round objects, he so when he make like the sound like e or he kind of hum, I know like I know his sounds or what he want, but it's certain stuff that just help, you know what I'm saying? Like it helped soothe him. So I don't try to
Yes.
change none of that. But like what I heard from one story is that because some children might rock, that they consider buying them like rocking chairs. And I was just like, wow, like that's 8 hours and you think the fix is to put them in a rocking chair. That's not the way to go. So
No.
It can be
yeah.
unreal. It can be, and I will say, I think everything, just like with us, everything in moderation is good. I mean, you can't overdo anything. And I
We
mean, I
can.
think it makes them a well-rounded person. And I think that's something that we all should strive for, not just because, just ignore the need of making our kids well-rounded because they're special needs. No, just like we were talking about the different places that you take them to and it's loud. There were times I didn't even know all that my daughter was going through when she was young. I just thought she was just acting out. When people talk about sensory, I didn't
Mhm.
even understand what that was. I mean,
Right.
so I mean that's more, it's, I think it's more considered now. Even the diets. My daughter was nonverbal, so she couldn't really chew good. All of these things played a part. I think it's so much more that goes along with educating us now than it was at the when I had my daughter. I was learning along the way. So I don't know if that's how you felt. I don't know, do you feel as though you're still, I know you said that when you heard about it you were just like, oh, whatever, but do you still feel like as time goes on that you're learning along the way?
Yeah, I actually learned a lot. It actually helped me grow. I learned a lot about myself because,
Yeah.
not always. I don't like to like put everybody in the group like within like the
Mhm.
black community, but it has been like history to where we don't know how to communicate with each other a lot, and sometimes we could be loud, or sometimes it was spankings, or it wasn't full
Mhm.
communication on what's going on. And like when you show certain emotions, it's just like a tree. Like if you install fear, then a branch of that is gonna be anger, and a branch of that's gonna be anxiety. So
Mm.
sometimes, in our community, we grow up and we can't fault our parents because we don't know what they've been through. We don't
Right.
fully understand it, but we don't know how to communicate with each other. So imagine how much you go grow having a child
That's
that's
right.
nonverbal, to where now you got to figure out a way to communicate, and the ways that you might have learned or what you've been exposed to
Mhm.
is not the effective way of communication, because communication is not all about talk. So I'm learning every day. It really made me become a better man. It made me become more patient and understanding. um
Mhm.
it helped me out with work, with the way I approach stuff. Like I'm not gonna be so tense or shout, even if I know the solution is. It's just like, what's going on here? Like if you go into the room and like MJ, if he's just tripping out and something like that, do I say, what's wrong with you? Calm down, or do I like sit back and see what's going on here? Because his behaviors is not too extreme. 9 times out
Mhm.
of 10, when he get upset, it's because he's trying to communicate something to you, or
Yes.
it's something that he don't like. So can you imagine what's going on in his head with him not being able to talk and say certain stuff, and how quickly he go get frustrated? So how is it gonna help anything coming in there with aggression, or always
That's
assuming a
right.
certain stuff? Like you got to sit back and just scope out the situation. And if you do that, the majority of the time, you go right get to what's going on, and you go not install like that fear that might have been installed in a lot of households. And that it helped me out. That definitely helped me out with work and outside of work. Also, just see what's going on with the situation, scope the situation first before you so quick to react. Because in today's society, road rage, everything, everybody just so quick to react and quick
That's
to
so true.
be mad and stuff like that. But you know, then having a child with autism, it definitely it definitely made me more patient with how I handle situations.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that
That's what I was
patience.
thinking too. Patience. Yeah.
Yes.
You have patience.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
really, sometimes I tell my husband, I be like, Dave is not really what you think. Give him a minute. Sometimes he need a minute to process stuff. Because, my kids, they're a little older. Mikey got to meet them. They're 12 and 15. And I think just a week or two ago, I was like, the youngest one, I was like, Roman, did you lose your mind? He was like, what? Lose my mind? Mom, did I lose my mind? And I'd be like, I forget how literal he is, but I get a little comfortable, and then his 19-year-old sister give him the business all the time. So it's like, this is where he is. This is the life that we're living, and this is how we communicate. But something Paula and I always talk about is that behaviors are a form of communication. And my oldest daughter, she has cerebral palsy, and her speech is considered unintelligible. So she's going to try to talk to you. You can, usually you can make it out, but sometimes you can't. And what I used to do, like you're saying, I'm looking at her body language when she get off the bus. I'm looking to see if she's apprehensive to go to school. Like she was so happy about school. That's what let me know school was such a delight for her. I was always going off of her behaviors, what she can show me in her emotions. And and then the same with my son. So you're absolutely right. You really utilize, you learn a lot of patience. You observe really closely because you're trying to see if there are any differences. Like, is he sad today? He came home, his demeanor is different. This isn't like him. His spirits are down. Like, you have to be able to tap into what's not being said. And the reality is we deal with that with neurotypical kids too. How was your day? Fine. You gotta really gotta pull a little bit, show a little bit more patience, ask questions to get a little bit more answer from them. So I think it's like all around, but definitely with our kids who are not always able to communicate as well. And then Mike, I like when you said that too, because it make you look at communication differently. So one day a lady was like, her son came up and he was like, "Mom, I'm angry." And she was like, "What?" Like, you don't get to tell me like you're angry or you're frustrated or whatever he said. And then I was like, "Well, hey, can I tell you something?" From a mom who kid did not talk, and then you want your kid to be able to recognize emotions. And then for me teaching my kid, can you tell me if you're frustrated? Are you angry? And now he can. I know you didn't like the tone and you could work with that, but you wanted your kid to come and tell you they're angry. And
Who
she
else
was
they gonna
like,
tell it to?
right. And then her
Girl,
kid was like 5 or 6. And she was like, I never thought of it. Like I said, if your kid could not tell you this, how frustrating would that be? But your kid just expressed to you, I'm angry. He was upset at the decision and she didn't like it. So I said, I could work with tone. I could say, you can tell me you're not angry, but can you tell me a little differently? You know what I mean? Like, but communication, it made me look at communication so different, Mike. It made me look at my kids have like you said, sometimes in our community, how we may have been brought up, it just was different. We could not maybe express,
they
I
told you
don't
to
like
shut
this.
up.
That's
Yeah,
right. You
stay in
couldn't
the
even
Shut
stay
up.
in
say,
the stay in
I
the
don't
kid's
like
place,
this.
you know.
Right,
Yeah,
Stay in the
exactly.
kids' place, y'all.
And so
yeah,
now, how I feel, everyone, I want to hear your voice. I
I
don't
do
want it
too.
silenced, because not only do I need you to speak up to me, I need you to speak up in this world.
yeah. And
So
like
I love it.
with that statement, speak up in this world. Like even before I had kids, I started noticing. Once I had went to college for plastics, and it wasn't a lot of black people in the program. It was probably two, and who graduated. So as I start going outside of my regular surroundings of what I'm used to and how to work, entering corporate America, I'm seeing the way that I handle situations. And at first, I mean, they was very forgiving. I'm like, man, I'm glad I still got a job, because I probably ain't handled that the right way. But now I'm just like, I'm kind of, I don't like this. I'm getting my physical. They might be saying, yeah, blood pressure a little high. I know it's probably due to me, stressing a little bit, but I'm looking at like how I handle stuff and then how I'm interpreted. So, once you have a child, whether it's special need or not, you starting to like prepare them for, you got to prepare them how to communicate. You got to prepare them
Yes.
to, understand about themselves. They got to be able to speak, because you grooming them, because they go, eventually you want them to like leave the nest. So you got to prepare them right to enter the world. So just,
Yes.
emotional intelligence, and just going about stuff a certain way, because you want to like set them up right. So like even before we had MJ, I'm starting to notice stuff with just just being an engineer out here, and just the way that, because I always like practice self accountability. Though I'm
I
not
love
trying to
that.
say that
Oh, I love that.
I'm like an expert and stuff, but I just start practicing going back, and it's like, well, I got to look at like how
I love it.
what I did, because I only could change my perspective and stuff like that. I can't really change what's gonna get thrown at me, because stuff always gonna get thrown at me. So for my health and my my heart rate and all that, I got to start dealing with stuff different. So I was kind of seeing it. So when we had MJ, it just kind of lined up with what I was already starting to observe. Like, okay, it's one way to handle it. You might be having a bad day, or you don't want to talk and stuff like that, but I gotta groom MJ just the same way, even though he's nonverbal.
Yes.
I gotta groom him to be a young man. I gotta groom him that even though you mad, you might have to go get your talker and just say it. And I'm saying I, but I mean we, because my wife play a very critical role in this. It's not always just me. She steps up. She really holds the house down. She just probably don't like being in front of the camera a lot, but um, we both just, we kind of like, we work with him a lot because he, okay, if he turned 20, I don't want him just having you know a certain tantrum, and then people might not know that he's autistic. Like we had
Right.
talked about before, children with autism or adults with autism, you might not pick it up until you actually interact with them. So just working on those behaviors and not instilling like fear and anger into them is just, is really important, because you don't, I mean, I don't care what the world think of my kid. I do, but I don't, but
Right.
I still want to like set them up the best way I can, and
And
I just,
helping him to
Absolutely.
channel
yeah.
that anger. I'm with you. I mean, I think even if he is angry, even if he is upset, like you're saying, being able to channel it and handle it in an appropriate way. I mean, that's just real life. And I mean, it's not doing it, it's kind of keeping them on an island by themselves, and that's unrealistic, you know. And I
Absolutely.
think that's anybody. You when you think about it, you know, I we all say this, but we all may have a form of disability. Me and Crystal say this all the time, but I'm with you. It's like I don't know if as I get older, I wish I had understood at a younger age like you. But sometimes as you get older, you realize that you have to handle things differently.
Yes.
You have, and our kids are watching us. I don't care if they're perfectly normal or disabled. They're watching us, you
Yeah,
know.
you don't like how I feel like when if you lose your temper, even if it was good reason for you to lose your temper. Like if you sometimes when you might lose your temper, you might shout at work or whatever the situation might be. Like, it's a good chance that right after that you go think like, man, I don't really like how I feel. I don't like how I
Yeah.
feel after that, regardless of the argument, if I won it or not. I don't like how I feel after getting that angry. And like that's where it kind of started with me. Like I'm lightheaded, like I don't,
Hmm.
I don't like how I feel when I lose my temper. I don't like how I feel, during these situations when I'm angry. And then eventually it's just like, man, I really don't. I'd rather be happy than angry. Like I don't like being angry. So when you think
Yes.
about it like that, it's like, man, you start catching it, because I mean, people look at stuff like a light switch, and it's not a light switch, it's a muscle. It's a muscle to start working on your anger. It's a muscle to start working on your perspective and the way you look at stuff. It's not just quick like how it might be shown on social media and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Like
Right.
it's a
It's
muscle.
a
Just,
build up to me.
yeah, you
It's a
just like
build up.
yeah, you got to
It's
work
almost
on
like
it.
you
And
haven't dealt with your issues over time, and one person step on your foot and you ready to kill them.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I think what you're saying, first of all, is so important. Coming from a man, I think it sounds even better though. I think
Yes.
one thing that I did when I was a single mom, but raising my son, and one thing that you said that is so important was accountability. I can,
Yes.
to this day, I cannot stand when someone does not take accountability for themselves. And that's
Me
one thing
too.
I did not play with my son. If
Yes.
he got in trouble in school, don't come
Own it.
telling me what anybody else did. I don't want to hear it. I'd rather you say, you know what, mom, I did such and such a. Don't, my friend used to call it, her mother say, the honest John, don't never do nothing. But my son, as he got older, and I thank God for that, to this day, he takes ownership. He would, if I ask him something, because he used, as he was coming up, like they say, you don't have to teach your kids to lie, they just lie. But and I would tell him, you're gonna want me to understand the truth one day, and I'm not going to even accept your version of the truth because you lie so much. He went through that stage, and then he got to the point where he started taking accountability. And I can honestly say at 24, I love the man that he is, because I don't care what I ask him. If I don't care what it is, he will take accountability for it. And I love that. And I
That's
told him that
important.
early. It's important.
It's important. It is important, even how Mike is saying, like with MJ now. Sometimes just some experiences that I know, Mike, when the first kid and they have a diagnosis, um, a lot of parents, may try to, like compensate in other areas, maybe.
Mhm.
Um, handle it a little bit more delicate.
Mhm.
And for me, it's a little different because my boys, they're number four, number five of five kids. So I already had structure, I already had discipline, but I started with my first daughter who has cerebral palsy. So when I hear you say certain things that you're wanting to instill in MJ, like, okay, and he's well capable, he's very intelligent. I know he can do this. I know what I want to instill in him, and I'm going to be the example so he sees. I think that is really something that we need to hear, that other people I know in our audience need to hear. It's important because structure, discipline, all those
Absolutely.
things are very important, and it's what
Mhm.
helps them be really good advocates for themselves, taking
Mhm.
accountability. So you're throwing out some really good nuggets out here, Mike. Look, we didn't even get to all that, and I'm up here
I
trying to
No,
listen.
know.
well,
I know,
no, I
because
just
I mean
yeah.
he's just sharing really, it's real. It's real, and so many of us can relate to it. And then to hear it from your point of view, it just has more resonance than you really think, than you might not even know.
I
Basic
appreciate that, and
principle.
I had to give credit too. The school really help with that because I'm so much of a protector. I'm looking at him when I'm taking him to school, like, man, you want to go, or you can just stay with me. I was like being real protective at first, and then I popped in on class and seen how much structure he has that he wasn't doing at home, and I'm just like, man, you getting over on me. And they tell me that, Mister, that Mr. Powell, MJ, he can do more. You got to stop spoil him. Which
Mm-hmm.
I'm his father. I want to be a protector. I'm pushing him at home. But once I went to the school, and I got to get him credit, he has an excellent teacher and it's an excellent staff there. Once I did that, pop in on the classroom and seen how he was acting in class, hanging his coat up, sitting down in one spot, I'm just like, man, you a slick one. You got to be my son.
But
You
he
got
was
to be.
only doing what you allow. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
in school is, for the most part, I hear this from a lot of parents and definitely teachers.
Mhm.
Teachers say kids do so much better in school because sometimes school is the only structure they have. When they go home, it's a free for all. Some parents be like, my kid get in a car acting out. Like, kicking and carrying on. They be like, and them teachers be like, "Oh, we don't deal with that at school. Like your kid does A, B, and C," and I'm like, "Yes, they do. They really." I think that's a need for them. Like they really just
It's a
go with a good
balance in life.
schedule, a good structure. Like
Right.
your son was getting ready for bed. Like if you held him back too long, it might have, like you said, it wouldn't have went
Been
well.
nice.
But he was used to, this is bedtime. His body starts shutting down. He's used to certain structures that you guys have in your home. So he wasn't just getting over you. He was just like, this is allowed at home.
Yeah, yeah, and like with MJ, I mean the biggest thing with him that I learned throughout the years is just if you when you whatever fashion communicate with him, you kind of take the time to like give him a chance to respond because he understand
Mhm.
what's going on. It go pretty smooth. Outside of he only want to eat pizza and spaghetti 20, like that's it.
Look
I
at
mean,
here. He
like a
ain't the
like a
only
ninja
one.
turtle, just ninja turtle, just he can eat pizza and spaghetti every day without a problem. So as
Wow.
long as we still introduce little stuff to him. He do eat fruit sometimes and stuff like that. But with his having him on that schedule, sticking to it, being patient with him, slowing down to scope out the situation with him, like all of that just really help out with his tantrums and stuff like that. And from there, it kind of goes smooth. And then my daughter, I noticed just a big growth, when he started being around her and like teaching her, engaging in her.
I
It's
love
just I would say that, dad and mom just can't do everything, and I thought I could, honestly. And that's what every parent, you know,
Right.
want to do. You want to do everything for them, but it's a community. The school is a community.
Yes.
It's a community within our household. It's a community within the family, and they can learn so much with the community. Like when I grew up, I was always under my grandma with my cousins, and that's why I learned and did a lot. So that was I would think that that's a big barrier too when you have a kid that's special needs is that you're not even like most of the time willing to let them spend the night nowhere, no matter who it is. But
Yeah.
people, they will learn, in other environments, so you got to be just give stuff a chance.
You
But
do, you
Mike,
do.
gosh, we didn't even get a chance
I
to
know
Oh,
really.
sorry, my
we
bad.
haven't
Oh,
even
all
got.
No,
I
right,
no,
yeah,
no.
know
my
Hold
because
bad.
on.
this has
We
been
gotta have you
good.
back on. We gotta have you back on because there's so many things that I know. I mean, we talked offline. We were talking about the health side. We didn't get to really talk about that as far as the multiple disabilities that come along with it. I definitely don't want to rush through this because we gotta have you back on.
Okay.
Yes.
But one thing I wanted to talk about is him getting over at home. What are his chores? Does he have any chores at home? Somebody said part two. Yeah, we gotta have everybody saying, y'all, we just
uh
scratched the surface. I'm
I
serious.
ain't, just like you said, you self accountability. So I ain't gonna lie. No, I haven't. I don't have him do nothing. I mean, he clean up his messes. We haven't start like having him maybe stack the dishwasher and stuff like that. I have I have him help with his like with his bedroom. I help like clean up the messes that they do. But outside of that, I just me and
Where's
Jess pretty
Rosa
much
from?
do all the chores.
Well, you
That's
say
something we
he's
need to start
7, and
doing.
that's a good
That's
start.
good.
He is 7, and that's a good start.
It
It's first
is.
in their personal space, the toys, maybe like help make up the bed, and it don't even have to look perfect. If you could pull a comforter back, I'd be like, "Come on, now, good job!" And then my kids start getting a little smoother with it, and just hint, hint. We just had a little family meeting Sunday, and I was like, "Not Roman, the 12-year-old got the cleanest room in the house, like." Like so I think that's a great start.
Hey,
What?
Israel, you
MJ's not
got
in
that?
the bed.
Oh,
Yeah.
but you was
All
making
right. So even more how I spoil him, man. He be wanting me in there. He'll go to sleep, but he'll wake up 2, 3 hours later. So I had to get a bump bed. So right now I'm sleeping on the top bunk bed.
you are.
I know,
Let me
I
tell
Oh
you
know. Hey,
something.
it's everybody got areas of improvement.
You
I
are
know I got
great.
it.
No,
no, but
you
you're
a
doing
great
it.
Yeah.
Does that
father.
help him sleep through the night if you
And I
sleep in
always
there?
say they
Yeah,
give
playing some
kids to be spoiled one time in life. Can you imagine spoiling a 40-year-old man? So he's 7 years old. He
Right.
should be spoiled.
yeah.
I,
I'm in there. His
listen,
room, the decoration's better than our room, man. He got planets and stars and astronaut
yeah,
night lights and stuff like that. So no, we put on a little peaceful music and
I
Yes.
love it.
not every night, but if it's like during the school week, if that's gonna help him sleep throughout the night, then
Yes.
I'll sleep in the top bunk,
That's what's up, Dad.
because I don't want
Let
him
me
going to
tell you
school
something.
and giving them a hard time and stuff like that.
You're
Man,
absolutely right.
I'm patting you on the back. I'm telling you because as we know, it's a partnership with these kids. It's a
Yes.
partnership. And just having a mate that's looking and searching and looking for compensations and all. Man, let me tell you something. That is half the battle. You're looking to try to resolve it because most of the time it's the moms. And guys, please don't beat me up. But it is most times us stroking. Well, baby, he's crying. Maybe we should go in there and see him. No, no. He gonna man up. He gonna man up. Yeah, so I think it's a wonderful thing when we have that father that has that softer side. And I will say, my hubby does have a softer side too. I have experienced it from that end too. Because sometimes I gotta be the bad cop and he's the good cop. But you have that balance,
You
you
do.
need that. Yeah,
You
but for
do
me,
And
we
I
need
had
it.
a
understand what it
partnership.
take to be scared of man. When I was his age, man, Chucky was out and all them movies. So as far as being scared of the dark, like man, if he's scared
Right.
of the dark, I get it, man. All the horror movies, Children of the Corn, Pet Cemetery.
Oh yeah, all of
Why
them.
Yeah.
why did my mama let me watch that? Like I slept with the light on till I was about 20. So I get it. He'll grow out of it eventually.
He will, and I think it's different phases and
That's
it's
right.
different steps. I mean, our son used to always come in, and he would go to my husband's side of the bed, and I'd be wondering like, why I'm on the edge and why my husband in the middle? Because he done left all this room for my youngest son. I think it's to me. I was with you, Mike. It's what helped him sleep through the night because I do know him going to school with not enough sleep. I might get a phone call. It just wasn't going to work. And then there are times that Roman has gotten up at 3 in the morning and never went back to sleep. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
have to keep him
yeah.
home for the day. It's just not even worth it. I wouldn't put
Mm.
the staff through it or him. just all of that, trying to get through the day, and he's tired. And so I get it. And I think it's just for a time. It happens and it does phase out. He's going to go through stages, and I know you'll see that with your daughter. She'll just go through different stages,
Every
and it
day.
just
I'm just playing.
Lisa gonna show you a different thing.
Oh
I
man,
can tell you that.
I got 6 little sisters, so I forgot how it was. Man, that's another 3 4 episodes with my daughter.
Look, and she brought it back
Man,
to your memory, huh?
Man,
but
she's something
enjoy
else.
these times though, because I mean, I look at it. Morgan's going on 20, and the phases that she went through. I didn't really. I just was talking to my nieces the other day about stopping and smelling the roses. This is a time to stop and smell the roses, because it's that time just goes so fast. And some people are like, gosh, when they see her, they be like, I can't believe she's 20. That time has flown. I said, no, it didn't. Because when I was in them emergency rooms and getting in them after hours, it seemed like it was trickling like a little drip here, a little. But I can honestly say I thank God for those times, because honestly speaking, it made her the person she is today, and it made me the woman that I am.
Yes.
So, man, when I just tell you, man, Mike, look at these little comments. Everybody's like, shout
Yes.
out to dad. I mean, and not negating your wife, because she over there handling her business too. But I think
Oh,
so
yes.
many of us, and I said this to you before, so many of us have not heard or seen, especially our black fathers on the front
Yes.
line handling business, especially in a special situation like this.
That's
You
right.
ain't, like I told him, he ain't go get the bread, say I'm going to get the bread and never come back. So I can honestly, and then you're in tune. You're just as
You are. I know. Look, Mike, if you're this in tune, I know your wife already is in tune. So
Yeah.
it sounds like it's really a really good team. And I
yes,
think that that's what helped you guys both emotionally getting through this. Nobody's feeling alone in this. We
yes.
can get through this together. And I think that's the best thing for the child. The
Hmm.
stronger the parents are mentally, that wellness physically, you got to take care of yourself. I know it's hard, but we do, because we only can take care of them if we're good. So I mean, those are my closing comments. I think we kind of had like a pre-talk before we started tonight. Like
Yeah,
we tried not to, Mike, but we were
yeah.
excited to have you, and we were excited to get your perspective. And I mean, you delivered, and we need a part two, because we didn't even get
We
into
do.
adapt. And
Yeah,
but I think we got a good foundation
foundation for sure.
of what your journey looked like that caused you to start your business. So we can't wait to hear more. We can't
And I
wait to have you
want them
back.
to hear a little about all that, but I know we don't have
I
much
know.
time. I do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's close out with that. I'm gonna hold my closing remarks because I want to wait. I want you back on here. But just as we're going out, tell us a little bit about all that. Tell people what it's about so that they can be joining us when we come back.
Yes.
So with adapt, MJ he was playing baseball and stuff like that, and we going around and experience stuff, and then the term just popped into our head is that we're adapting to what's going on with them. So when we thought of the term adapt and with autism, we kind of combined them to adapt, meaning autism adapting. So we're just at the early phases of this, and pretty much what we do is we go to pop-up shops. Our main thing that we focus on is talking with parents or people that's dealing with autism. We want to spread awareness, so we have these wristbands here, and we have T-shirts that we mostly sell at the pop-up shops, but we want to connect with parents. We want to spread awareness with our accessories, and we want to just educate the world like what you're doing with this podcast. So we're at the beginning phases with developing it, but one of the major goals of adapt is that I'm not saying it won't happen, but I want to build a business up for MJ. So once he gets older, and just in case the world is not adapted to, you know, jobs for him, he can own his own business once he turned 18. So right now he's 7, and I got about a good 11 years, to build up. Me and my wife got 11 years to build up this brand, so he could be, somewhat financially stable, just in case he don't enter the workforce.
That's
Okay. Can
beautiful.
you put in the comment section where they can purchase the t-shirts?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in a website, and then you could
Okay.
just hit me up, and I right now we could just ship it out to you, and we're setting it up to where you can order it pretty soon.
They already asking. Yes, because advocacy would
Hmm.
love to contribute. So, guys, we are going to have Mike and his family on again. We're going to get them on a calendar, hopefully in September, October. That's what we are
That would
now.
be beautiful.
Yes,
Yes.
because Mike, we would love to have you back. The jewels that you dropped on us, man. I mean, I'm just so really happy. I mean, God knows what He's doing when He put a child into a family's life because MJ is accepted, he's loved, and he's appreciated for who he is. And he should
Yes.
always feel like that. And I feel like you and your wife do just that. And it's beautiful. It's
It
beautiful.
is.
Thank you, and thanks for
Yeah.
having me on too.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Did you want to say anything to close us out, Mike?
No, just really thanks for having me on here, and thanks everybody for joining. I really, when I can, because sometimes it's hard, but I really enjoy what you're doing with this platform, and
Thank
I
you.
enjoy the comments too, because I'll be reading through them too when sometimes when I can't listen through it, but just let's just all adapt together. Let's just keep sharing. Let's just keep just being better people, so we could we could help everything out.
I
All
love
right,
it. I
guys.
love
Yeah.
it. We look forward to having you back, Mike. And
Yeah.
hopefully, we get to speak with Jessica as well. And we just really appreciate your time on this evening. And to all of our guests at Advocacy, we definitely hope to see you again next Thursday,
Yeah.
right here, same time, same place. Have a
Yeah.
good night.
All right. Bye.